This is CBC Vancouver News.
My beautiful son, Evan Smith, will still be dead. That is our life sentence.
Not enough time in prison. Loved ones of two young UBC students killed by a drunk driver say his sentence falls short. Plus,
we have had increased numbers of avian influenza cases.
parts of the Fraser Valley see a rise in avian flu, while dead birds have been found in a public park. And look who's winning.
I think that we're just, as a whole, again, a little bit more mature.
Vancouver Canucks players and fans revel in a recent run of success.
It touches the soul, man. I mean,
good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Family members of two young UBC students killed by a drunk driver say the sentence given to him is not enough. They were in court today to hear his punishment after the Crown and defense agreed on a 3-year prison term. As Karen Larson reports, the judge accepted that recommendation.
The 23-year-old man who pleaded guilty to killing two 18-year-olds in a car crash on the UBC campus 2 years ago has been sentenced to 3 years in federal jail. Tim Gerner was driving his BMW between 100 and 120 kilometers an hour when he lost control on a curve and hit first-year UBC students Emily Selwood and Evan Smith from behind as they walked on the sidewalk. Gerner was originally charged with 2 counts of impaired driving causing death, but pleaded guilty to 2 lesser counts of dangerous driving causing death, agreed to by Crown Counsel and his defense. Outside of court today, the mother of Evan Smith said she does not feel justice has been served.
After Tim Gerner's sentence is complete and he gets on with his life, my beautiful son, Evan Smith, will still be dead. That is our life sentence. That's all I have to say today.
The judge in this case called it extremely tragic, devastating, and heartbreaking. Victim impact statements from the parents of both Selwood and Smith were extremely emotional, describing 2 young and promising lives cut short and the absolute devastation left behind by their deaths. The judge accepted that Gerner was sincerely remorseful and encouraged the UBC engineering grad to use his experience to speak out against drinking and driving when he gets out of jail. Karen Larson, CBC News, Richmond.
Big road repairs begin in Delta this week for the Highway 17A overpass at Highway 99. It was badly damaged after an overheight vehicle smashed into it in July. The Transportation Ministry says the repairs are extensive, will include demolition, and could take 2 months. The work begins on Thursday with detours and partial lane closures in the evenings. Eventually, though, Highway 99 will be closed southbound from November 17th at 9 p.m. to November 19th at 3 p.m. The detour is on Lavender Trunk Road. Full closures of the damaged north side of the Highway 17A overpass will also start on the 17th until the project is finished. Meanwhile, Highway 3 near Karameas has reopened after a rock slide earlier this week. Geotechnical crews have deemed it safe and an evacuation order has been lifted. People forced from their homes will be allowed to return starting tomorrow after electricity and internet have been restored. 1 year has passed since Mayor Brenda Locke was sworn in as mayor of Surrey. She was elected vowing to keep the RCMP. That led to a showdown with the province. Justin McElroy spoke with Locke about her first year.
Does Surrey get the respect it deserves?
We are not getting the kind of attention that we must get for our residents. We're not getting our fair share of infrastructure dollars. Do I think we're getting the supports from other levels of government in Surrey? Absolutely not.
That is Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke in an interview we did to mark her 1 year in power. And her argument is a familiar one to those living south of the Fraser, the idea that Surrey is the fastest growing city, but doesn't get the funding it needs.
When you talk about Metro Vancouver, they can't live without us. They can't live without us. The economic engine of this region is Surrey by far.
Now, you can make that argument, but that attention and those dollars come from the province. A province that Surrey is taking legal action against to try and keep the RCMP, and where Locke has said this about the public safety minister.
I absolutely think there is misogyny going on, no doubt in my mind.
So we asked Locke if attacking the province on one hand hurts her ability to ask for more money and respect on the other. Her answer?
Well, I sure hope not. I make no excuses for or apologies for fighting for my residents, and I will fight for them because this is about taxpayers' dollars. This is about accountability, and this is about affordability, and I will not apologize for that.
And she doesn't have to, but it's a particularly thin tightrope to walk as Surrey enters its 6th year now of policing paralysis. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
Advocates and tenants in single-room occupancy units were rallying outside the BC Court of Appeal today to support the City of Vancouver. The city is appealing a ruling by a BC Supreme Court judge that quashed bylaws meant to limit how much property owners could raise rents of SROs between tenancies. If the city wins, the SRO vacancy control bylaw will once again be in effect.
If we get the vacancy control that we want, the SRO rent control that we want, and if the court backs us up, then it'll mean that when tenants leave, the new tenant coming in will pay the same rent.
The Court of Appeal has reserved its decision. Avian flu is now rising in several areas of the Fraser Valley. 6 locations have been added to the provincial watch list. All of the listed outbreaks in BC are located in commercial poultry farms. But the Fraser Valley Regional District is asking people to be careful in public parks and to report dead birds to the Wild Bird Reporting Line. The city of Chilliwack says it's collected over 100 bird carcasses from Sardis Park and sent them for testing.
We have a testing center, of course, in the city of Abbotsford that is working 24/7 on the testing aspect. We have had increased numbers of avian influenza cases, but we are prepared.
While the risk of transmission to humans is low, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency recommends people working with poultry wear protective clothing like face masks, goggles, gloves, and boots. The BC government is proposing more changes to housing development. If passed, developers will pay cities set fees for community amenities at the start of the building process. More now from the CBC's Emily Vance.
Right now, developers negotiate on fees to fund things like rec centers, daycares, and libraries with municipalities during the rezoning process. Today's proposed changes would mean that developers know those costs up front. The new legislation would require municipalities to set fees and decide where the money goes ahead of time.
This new tool allows for that to be done in a transparent way in the front end so they can get the dollars they need for that infrastructure, and it takes away the negotiating that takes often, sometimes years to get housing built.
But not all municipalities are happy with the changes. Eric Woodward, mayor of the township of Langley, said they already had a set fee system in place. The changes mean they would need to get their fees approved ahead of time by the province, something the mayor says gives them less flexibility.
Applying this one-size-fits-all program to every municipality really is fundamentally unfair as far as we're concerned. And they've been doing it without any consultation with municipalities like mine at all.
Before developers, the changes mean more certainty to know what they'll have to pay earlier on in the process.
So that everybody understands how they're going to fund the impacts that come with higher density. And this will provide that direction, and that's what we're supportive of.
The legislation has yet to be approved. Emily Vance, CBC News, Victoria.
The Vancouver Canucks are off to the team's best start in franchise history. Welcome news for many rabid fans who, as John Hernandez tells us, have endured some tough years.
To the side, Pettersson, Besser scores!
A spirited win against the Edmonton Oilers on Monday put the Vancouver Canucks near the top of the NHL.
I think that we're just, as a whole, again, a little bit more mature.
I think we just know the way that we need to play.
The team's 9-2-1 record marks the best start to the season in franchise history.
The building on a Monday night, to see it rocking like that, it just it almost brings a tear to the eye. Everybody's just excited to see what this team can do, you know, if this success can last.
Fans like Tej Dhaliwal reinvigorated after years of belief and disappointment.
Seeing everything that we hoped for and kept believing in, to see it come to fruition, you know, to see it being realized, it touches the soul, man. I mean, it's so exciting to be a Canucks fan again.
Enthusiasm that local bars and restaurants have been missing too. Here at the Shark Club near Rogers Arena, staff have seen noticeably bigger crowds on game night.
We typically will see, you know, the fans come out, you know, an hour and a half, you know, maybe 2 hours before the game starts, and we've been seeing, you know, traction as early as 3.5 hours, and a lot of people from out of town really, you know, wanting to be part of that experience.
A smooth start, but there's also signs that not all fans are convinced. Business is still quiet in this downtown Vancouver jersey store.
This year, we're finding out it's a little bit slow. I don't know what if it's the economy or people maybe still waiting for them to win another 10 games.
Maybe a wait-and-see approach for some fans, but analysts say the future looks promising.
So there's a real standard, there's a real bar internally that we're seeing with this team, and you can see that within the 60-minute game that they're playing, that they're a resilient bunch, but they're sticking true to their identity, which is a hard-working team.
Let's keep our fingers crossed that everything goes well and continues to go well for this team, because it's been a long time coming.
A lot of hockey left to play, with adversity sure to come for a team sparking belief once again. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Vancouver Whitecaps, meanwhile, were out of the Major League Soccer playoffs on Sunday after losing to LAFC at home. Head coach Vanni Sartini is facing backlash, too, for comments he made about a referee's performance. Speaking after the Caps' loss, Sartini said, quote, "If they found Tim Ford in False Creek, then I'm going to be a suspect. I'm not saying that I would do it. I'm saying I'm the first suspect. It's different." Those comments were made before the news conference was being recorded, but sports journalist Har Johal was in the room.
He obviously did not mean any ill will to referee Tim Ford. That's his kind of nature. He's a very emotional guy. Obviously, when that is online and people can see it, they have their different opinions, and then someone can see it this way, someone can see it that way. So I can see how it kind of took on a life of its own.
The Union for MLS Soccer Referees has called Sartini's post-match comments disgusting, saying that rhetoric is harmful. Sartini addressed what he said earlier today.
I'm sorry. I should have done a better judgment to choose the right word, and but there was no malicious intent.
The league is reviewing Sartini's comments and the game. A special dog is being celebrated in the Kootenays. West, the Labrador Retriever, is retiring from the RCMP after serving for the last 6 years.
West is about 9 years old, and we've had him since 2017 in these programs. He came to us from PADS, which is the Pacific Assistance Dog Society, fully trained as a 2-year-old, and he is just a really sweet, lovely dog. He's really calm and really generous, and he's really calming for people. He loves to lie on people's feet and help them stay grounded in situations where their emotions are really running high. He approaches people with such non-judgmental, loving brown eyes, and he really melts people into the moment that they're in instead of being kind of floating back into their traumas.
On a day-to-day basis, he would come to the detachment with me, and he is there to help support anybody coming in for interviews. In the beginning, we were doing on-call work, so if there was an instance where we needed to be out on call, and if there happened to be an accident or a sudden death, then West and I would come and help the members be able to do their job, and then he would be able to help anybody who's in need at that time.
Wanting to know if they had done a bit of a celebration for him, and Jesse and Katie had said no, they didn't. So I kind of thought, well, he's been such a big part of our community that he should have something, and something should be done to honor him. So I I proceeded to check with our organization and make sure it would be okay that we could do that. And yeah, so that's how it kind of came to be.
It's improv with a big twist. Hypnosis. Our conversation with Canada's own Colin Mockery and a man who puts the audience under after this. Hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream. Thanks for being here. A group from Lethbridge, Alberta is the only Canadian high school team competing in an international synthetic biology competition in Paris. The CBC's Osei Irete shows us what it is.
Let's get started. So we're gonna grab our pipette, and then we're just gonna grab a tip, and you're gonna press down on this, put this in. Now you've got your fluid, push down, and then press down on this end. There we go.
You guys have to do this a lot for your project, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so what is the project?
So basically, our project was kind of making a platform that uses a protein biosensor.
So once our biosensor detects velvet disease in water, it'll change from TS purple to AS pink.
In simple terms, it's kind of like a pH strip, but for diseases.
Yeah. We also like to compare it sometimes to like a pregnancy test, just like whatever sample is there, and then it changes color and tells you if that you have velvet fish disease or not.
It was a great opportunity to just learn about a lot of different things, not only like biology and lab work, but also coding, community outreach with like interviews and all that.
Close that up.
We have an amazing leader. Her name is Laura.
There you go. Okay.
I was like, uh-oh.
iGEM is really unique in that we target high school students and we get them to do a huge science project for 10 months out of the year. I'm gonna get a new shot, I'm sorry. We've had a high school iGEM program since 2012, and we've been the only team consistently competing at the high school level in Canada since then.
Well, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good that we've managed to put a team together consistently over the past decade and compete, but also very sad because it's something that I think it should be across Canada.
I have chem. The things that we're doing now in my chem class, I've already learned in iGEM, which is really helpful just to understand better, and I know it'll help me in future years and if I choose to pursue biochem.
I used to be like really shy and really bad at presenting and everything like that, but we've had a lot of presentations. We're preparing like for like the competition with like answering questions and all that, and it's just really helped me become more confident in front of people.
The team presented to judges today, and we'll find out where they stand on Saturday. Osei Irete, CBC News, Lethbridge.
You know him from the hit improv show Whose Line Is It Anyway, among many other things. Canada's own Colin Mockery is in BC for a comedy show with a twist. Hypnosis. It's called Hyprov. He and hypnotist Asad Meki played the Vogue Theatre in downtown Vancouver tonight, and shows are coming up on Vancouver Island. We spoke with them earlier today.
It's the unexpected that's going to happen. We get 20 people, 20 volunteers, rush the stage. Assad hypnotizes them, gets it down to the best 4 or 5. Then I and them form an instant improv troupe, do an improv show, various games, and it's wacky, fun, and hilarious.
So, Assad, how deep do people get into this? And how quickly does it take?
So I will tell you, we get rushed all the time. When I call for volunteers, people run up on stage. I've got to bat them back with a broomstick, basically. I'm calibrating them. So when they get hypnotized on stage, I'm looking for changes in rate and location of respiration. So breathing changes, skin color changes, skin tonus changes, lacrimation of the eyes, so the eyes start to tear up, vasodilation, the capillaries in the eyes become engorged. So yeah, they're pretty tranced out up on stage.
And is that relatively instantaneous? Like, how long does that take?
The process takes about 5 minutes. People naturally go in and out of trance states all the time. You go in and out of a trance state approximately 4 times an hour, daydreaming. Another example would be you watch a horror movie. You get so caught up in what you're watching that you're moved to a physiological response. Your heart starts to race, your palms get sweaty. Logically, you know what you're watching on the big screen is not real, but for that moment in time, it feels really real. That describes exactly what occurs up on stage.
And where does the comedy come in? What about hypnosis lends itself to some comedy?
What's great about this is when I'm working with improvisers like the guys from Who's Line, you know, we all have a common background. So even though we're making it up, I know in a general sense where they're heading in a scene. I don't have that with these people because they're just constantly reacting to everything Assad and I say. So there's no end game to them. They're not thinking, oh, this is how we could end the scene. No, they just keep giving information. And some of the most random information you'll ever get. So that makes it fun for me, trying to piece it together and try to make it make sense. But most of the time it doesn't. It's just fun.
And there's no plans. We've never met any of these people before. They're just random volunteers from Vancouver or whatever city we play. They come up on stage and we make an instant improv troupe right there before the audiences, right before their very eyes.
Any standout moments, ideas, segments, segues that have happened?
Yeah, I mean, every night there's something. There was one, we do a superhero. I was looking for a sidekick. I'm a superhero. We get from the audience the Gibraltar Kid. So this guy comes up and I said, so you're the Gibraltar Kid. What's your power? You become hard like a rock? He goes, no, I have residency in Gibraltar. And I went, what? He goes, yeah, anything happens there, I can take care of it. But just Gibraltar. I said, but I'm in North America. I can't work there. So it took the scene into a whole different direction, something that an experienced improviser I don't think would have thought of.
Amazing. And for those who are interested in perhaps if they can't go tonight, what other shows are you playing and where?
Tomorrow night it will be Nanaimo. The following will be Campbell River, I believe.
Sydney, for 3 nights in Sydney, then off to Calgary and Sherwood Park.
In Edmonton, yeah.
Wow. And what sort of response have you had so far?
It's been great. I mean, the crowd has been so receptive to the shows. And as well, we've been written up in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Time Out, New Yorker. We did an off-Broadway run and it went fantastic. We now have a residency in Las Vegas. So we were just in Vegas performing at Harrah's. We're going to be back performing in Vegas December 5th through the 9th. So it's been fantastic.
That's awesome. Assad Mekki, Colin Mockery, thanks for coming in. Have fun.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
There's a live shot of Cambie Street in City Hall. Blue sky and windy on the south coast today. That's set to change, though. Darius Madavi will have your BC-wide forecast right after this.
Gary Gillespie took a day off work today. He's a civil servant with the federal government. He's going to do more with his day off than just stack wood. Gillespie has done some strange things in his 30 years, but not as strange as today. Although he'd have you believe he's just a regular guy.
Cover your eyes, ladies. I've been pretty nervous this morning. I could have forgotten anything.
Regular guys don't attract crowds at shopping malls. And they definitely don't get their bodies painted with honey. And this is just for starters.
I'm beginning to like this. That's what scares me.
There's the rub and the reason. Gary Gillespie is doing it for money. $1,070 from a radio station for carrying out the wildest stunt. And honey alone wouldn't be enough. Bring on the feathers. Honeyed and feathered, he's off for a 2-mile tricycle ride down Victoria's main street. And at the end of it all, he's going to eat 25 hard-boiled eggs in 60 minutes. That's one every 2.5 minutes, or he doesn't get his check.
$500 an hour, we're gonna do it. You got a rope? You got a throw line.
Gillespie once jumped out of an airplane wearing a Superman suit and a parachute, but he probably didn't get the stares he's getting today.
It's exactly 1 o'clock. Dig in.
And now for the hard part, the hard-boiled eggs. All 25 of them. He says he did this once before, a long time ago. But this is no easy feat.
See? One more to go, guys. This is it, the last one. This is it, guys. Half an egg to go. Go, go, go.
He does it, with at least a minute to spare. He says he'll have no trouble spending the money. And we know how he can get rid of the eggs. But the honey and feathers? No one was offering him a ride home. Wayne Williams, CBC News, Victoria.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
On December 7th, join CBC Vancouver's Dan Burritt at the Alumni UBC webinar, Finding Joy in Climate Action. Experts will discuss what climate actions we can take that could also impact our well-being. And enjoy the seasonal celebration of quiet reflection and jubilant hope with Christmas with Corleone on December 15th, 16th, and 18th. Tickets at corleone.org.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast with Darius Madavi. After a pretty nice day, at least here on the south coast, what do we get next?
We get half a nice day. So tomorrow morning, expect some showers, but then we clear up. We have blue skies once again in the late afternoon, at least however many blue skies you can have before it gets dark incredibly early. But for today, we did see some of these showers continue to make their way onto the mainland. We did see some of those here on the south coast, but for the most part, it was in central BC. We saw some flurries and some rain showers. That's going to continue tomorrow morning, but then we're clearing up for the most part for the end of the day. We do have a wind warning in place, but only for the north coast and Haida Gwaii. Not expecting to see those strong winds we saw this morning here on the lower mainland, but it will be quite serious. Up to 90 kilometers per hour sustained winds, gusts over 120 kilometers per hour. So be ready for a gusty one if you're, up on the north coast, especially for exposed coastal sections. But in terms of precipitation, we do see those showers continue over the next 12 hours or so. But by the time we reach around noon tomorrow, we do see most of those showers die out for a pretty dry day across the province, or at least a dry finish to the day. But you do see here in the evening this next system running through. So by tomorrow evening, it will hit Haida Gwaii and the north coast. And then by early in the morning, it does hit the rest of the coast. So the south coast, pretty much entirely going to expect to see some showers tomorrow, on Thursday, as that system does start to roll through. Here on the lower mainland, it shouldn't be too serious, but we are expecting to see at least some precipitation, mostly on the west coast of the island, is where we'll see the most serious downpours for the south coast, but it is expected to be stronger for the north coast and Haida Gwaii. So if we look at the accumulation, you can see those showers that are continuing until tomorrow at noon, and then as we roll through the rest of that day, not too much more until we get to Thursday, and then you see that system roll through and really bring more precipitation to the rest of the province, including here on the south coast, where amounts could exceed 50 millimeters for parts of the west coast of the island. Now, tomorrow, again, expect mostly sunny skies, a few flurries, a few showers, but clearing up in the afternoon. And here in Vancouver, that's really what we're expecting. We're expecting to see a little bit of sun, a little bit of rain tomorrow, and then quite a wet forecast in the days ahead.
Okay, Darius, thanks very much.
Thanks, Dan.
That is your late news for Tuesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news anytime, check our website as you do, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. It begins tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a good night.